Chuki beat.
Hey, Novus Mixers, welcome back to B2B, Back to Basics with DIY Mixers Crew. How y'all doing this evening? So this is episode 3, guys, and real quick recap from what we did last week. We talked about ATF, alltheflavors.com. We basically walked you through the app, the program, the software on what ATF has to offer. And we walked you through it on how to use that program. And today what we're going to do, Novus Mixers, we are going to teach you how to input a recipe and mix that recipe for you guys. We discussed all of the basics that you need as far as your VG, your PG, your nicotine, your 25 basic flavorings that you got. Hopefully, a lot of you new mixers out there got those in the mail or got those priority mail or whoever you got those from. Hopefully, you got those in. And today, we're going to walk you through a 2-flavor mix, and you can tweak this recipe any way you want to. Make sure you guys check out the previous episodes if you have missed them, and make sure you check out liquidbarn.com and use Mixers Crew and get 15% off your total order. They do have awesome nicotine. Like I said in previous videos, we personally at DMC, we use their nicotine, and make sure you guys use code DMC6 at bullcityvapes.com. Now, I know a lot of you guys hopefully took advantage of those codes, the Black Friday codes and all the stuff that was floating around there over this past holiday weekend. Hopefully you guys took advantage of that and saved a bunch of money on those codes that were out there in the community. But going forward, guys, so basically today we are going to be doing a 2-flavor mix for you new mixers out there. So we're actually waiting for David to come online with us. He was running a little bit late today, but show must on.
Absolutely.
So today, yes. So how you doing today, Folk Art?
I'm doing good, man. What about you? You get over your vacation, your turkey fest?
What's that?
Did you get over your turkey fest? Do you get enough turkey?
Oh yeah, I ate turkey like crazy, man. That's all I've been on vacation this week from the daily grind, so it's been pretty awesome. I've just been eating like crazy. But other than that, man, I've been getting caught up on a lot of my recipe development and flavor testing and all that stuff. And for you new mixers out there, that's some of the stuff that we're going to discuss in future episodes. But today, Folk Art, while we're waiting for David, let's talk a little bit today about what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a 2-flavor mix. And tell us a little bit about that, on how we're going to do that.
Well, for any beginning mixer, it's always best to start simple. So, some great advice that I got from Wayne Walker from DIY or Die was, pick a simple base flavor, two, three flavorings, and start with that. That's always the best way. And try to find about two or three of those that you can mix up easily, quick, and vape on those just to have like an all-day vape while you are trying to develop your mixing skills, so you don't have to go out and purchase this expensive commercial e-liquid and stuff. So one of the recipes that I mixed up was a cream stone that I believe it was Wayne Walker that came up with it. It was a pretty simple. It's an ice cream and custard base, and that was my go-to vape for several months, just to vape on so that I could get away from that commercial juice. So I think today we're going to set up another simple recipe called mustard milk. Is that right, David? Is that right, David?
Yeah, I think fizz. Yeah, fizz mustard. Fizz mustard. Can you hear me?
Pretty good? I can.
Okay, yeah, fizz mustard. Yeah, he was one of the. I remember when I first started mixing, he was one of the original DIY mixers that I ran into on. I think it was ELR. He was pretty big in the Reddit forums and stuff like that. I remember looking back when I first started my mixing about 3 years now. I remember I did a 2-flavor mix. It was a basic mix, and I think it was Flavor Arts. What was it? Fuji Apple and Cinnamon Danish Swirl from Capella. I remember I used those two, and it's actually kind of almost on the same lines of the fizz mustard. Or I'm sorry, was it mustard milk by Fizz Mustard? It's 8% TFA vanilla bean ice cream and 6% TFA strawberry. Now here's the thing for you new mixers out there. This is a very basic recipe. It's tasty. It's awesome. It's very good. And this is pretty much all you guys really need to get off and starting into your mixing endeavor. Like I said, I went a different route. I really enjoyed like an apple, so I went with the Cinnamon Danish Swirl and the Fuji Apple. I used those kind of. I could talk about that a little bit later on in the episode. And what's great about this recipe is it gives you the basis of just a general basic recipe that's tasty that you can mix at home for you new mixers. 2 flavors, that's it. All you got to do is add the strawberry, add the vanilla bean ice cream, and you got yourself a nice strawberry ice cream, or strawberries and cream, on however you want to go about it. But if you guys if you new mixers are out there in the chat, if you wanted to ask to answer any of your questions out there today, please make sure you tag us at DIY Mixers Crew or B2B, either or. And feel free to ask us any questions that you have about beginner mixing, and we will answer those for you. So just so you know, getting back to what we talked about last week is the platform that we are going to be using. So what I'm going to do right now, guys, is I'm going to go into screen share, and I am going to give me a few minutes here. Let me log into my All the Flavors account. So what we talked about last week is we went on All the Flavors, and we had talked about the app or the program or software. Like I said, I know you can't download it on Apple, but Android users, you can download this app for free. And you can create a free account. If you want to talk a little bit about that, folk art, while I am getting this up before we go any further.
Yeah, we just covered the basics on All the Flavors website last week. How to input your flavorings to keep your inventory straight. How to enter the your nic milligrams. How to set your VG PG ratios. And basically how to input all that information so that it'll automatically give you the grams, the milliliters. It doesn't do drops, I don't think. I know some apps do drops, but it shows you exactly how many grams to put in, depending on how much you want to make. It's just a real straightforward program, easy. And if you upgrade to the, I think it's the Pro version, it's only like it's like $1.99. It's $1.99 a month. It's very, very cheap. Well worth the price.
Yeah, I also think that you could pay for the year. I don't know if he still does that. You could pay for the year.
Yeah, I think you get it a little bit cheaper if you get it by the year, but I pay by the month, and $2 a month. What's that? That's a couple cigarettes, So I'm not worried about that, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing about like Novus mixers out there. That's one of the things that that we can't stress enough. The money. I mean, you think that you were spending a lot of money on cigarettes every day. Like if you're a pack a day smoker, you're spending. I think now the price of cigarettes in the United States is around $7 a pack. I mean, if you buy the cheapies where they're like $4 or $5, you're spending what 30, 40, 50 up to almost probably 70, $80 a month. Or I'm sorry, a week on cigarettes. And once you start vaping and you're buying like a commercial juice and you're spending anywhere from 15 to 25, upwards of $30 every couple days for juice, that adds up. If you vape 30 mils a day, okay, and we'll just say $20. We'll round it off, okay, and you times that by 7. Okay, that's $140 that you're spending a week on commercial juice. So, what we're teaching you right here, at DIY Mixers Crew at B2B is to make your own tasty recipes, and it will be a fraction of the cost on what you're going to be like, what you spend on commercial juice. With this recipe that we're doing today, like I said, it uses TFA vanilla bean ice cream at 8%. And it uses TFA strawberry at 6%. You got 2 concentrates. If you buy a 10 ml bottle, let's say Bull City flavors that we talked about last week, it's I think Bull City flavors. It's like what $2 for a 10 ml, folks. Is that what about $2.75?
Yeah,
roughly around that. So you're talking like maybe $2.50 for 10 mils, which is going to last you a very long time. You'll get maybe a couple 100 mils juice out of this. So you're spending $2.50 to $5 for 2 flavor concentrates, and then say the $50 or the $60, even $100, that you invested into your basic DIY necessities that you need to start mixing. Just that week on what you spent in commercial juice, you just spent on the materials that you need to start mixing, and to start doing recipes. Okay, the initial cost, okay, that's out the window because that's already done. Now that you're on your second week, you spent $5 on 2 flavors and you're making a couple 100 mils of juice just out of this. So you're saving astronomical the money that you're saving by doing this yourself at home.
Absolutely.
So basically what we're going to do, we're on my ATF account. I'm screen sharing right now. We're going to be doing a recipe by, you said fizz mustard, correct?
Actually, it's called mustard milk. QC, or I don't know how you pronounce it. He's the guy that runs all the flavors. He's the one that posted it, but he posted it as one of fizz mustard's recipes.
Oh, Q2.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's in all the flavors. Is it in there?
It is. I can bring it up on the sidebar if you like, or you can share it, whichever way you want to do it.
I'll screen share it. I'm in my account right now, but we'll just go back like we talked about last week, and how easy it is to find a recipe. Now, I don't have this specific recipe entered into my all the flavors account, but like I said, going back to last week, we're on the all the flavors platform right here. Okay, so we click all the flavors. It takes you to the main screen. You got flavors, recipes, and mixers. Okay. And all you got to do is click on recipes. And some of the recipes that were submitted throughout the day today, as you look here, we got strawberry quick. We got smooth Arabian train. All these recipes that were submitted today for you guys out there in the community, if you wanted to try. Now, you wanted to search a recipe, and what was the recipe called on all the flavors? So that way I can type it in.
Mustard milk.
Mustard milk. Okay, so I'm going to type in mustard milk, and this is the recipe that we're going to mix today. Yep, we're going to type this in, and we're going to hit search over here, and we're going to see what comes up. Okay, we got a strawberries and cream by Fizz Mustard. Okay, so this is the recipe, guys, for you novice mixers out there. This is the recipe that we're going to mix today. Simple recipe. Okay, I'm going to click on this here.
This recipe was kind of a breakthrough in mixing, because before this there were a lot of people that were just convinced that you had to use 5 or 6 different flavors to come up with a really good recipe, and just 2 flavors is all you need for this particular recipe. It's an awesome recipe. Simple can be just as good as complex, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And here's the thing, guys. Once we start getting into more intermediate and advanced mixing, those are some of the episodes that are going to going forward. Those are some of the episodes that we're going to be discussing about flavor testing, about recipes, like how you come up with recipes, this and that. This is the stuff that we're going to talk about going forward, in future episodes of B2B. Now, like I said, this recipe is very simple for you new mixers out there. It's a 2-flavor recipe. You have a TPA strawberry at 6%, and this is what we talked about last week, guys.
David, yes, can you increase the size of your screen? Like hit the Control Plus button.
Yeah, I got one of those goofy touch screen computers.
There you go.
So we got.
There you go.
I'd wind it up for you a little bit. So. Basically what this is here is this is the Fizz Mustard. Now you could see, guys, and like I said, this goes back to what we talked about last week. It was submitted by Q2. He is the owner of all the flavors. And I could see why he posted this recipe up here on his website, because it is a phenomenal recipe and it is very easy for beginner mixers to make. Okay. For you novice guys out there, it's one easy. It actually had 5 stars ratings by or 4-star ratings by 5 people. We can scroll down here and we can see some of the reviews. Simple, great, 2 flavors, great taste. It just goes to show you what you can make with 2 flavors. Yeah. Okay, so basically this recipe, like I said, it starts off last week. What we talked about is you go down to this column. Let me pan down a little bit so you guys can see this real quick. So real quick, down here what we talked about last week in last week's video. You have the percentages, you have the vendor, and you have the flavors, okay? And right here, all you got to do is hit this mix key. It'll take you to the next screen on when you want to mix this. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys.
There you go.
Okay, so now this goes back to last week, what I was talking about. Depending on what type of nicotine that you guys got in, you novice mixers, depending on what type of nicotine base that you guys got in, what strength you got. Me personally, I use 100 milligram strength of nicotine. So when I input this into all the flavors, I am going to input 100. Now, if you use a 50, all you got to do is type in 50. You know what I mean? And it automatically adjusts everything down here at the bottom of the screen. But I use 100. So I have 100 milligram nicotine strength in this. Going back to the next step here, VG-PG ratio. Now, the nicotine that you got in, wherever you order it from, did you order 100% VG or 100% PG, or did you go with a 50-50 blend? Now, you hear this out through the community. People talk about blends and ratios. This is what that means. Same goes back to when you go with commercial juice that you buy in a brick and mortar. You purchase an 80-20, 75-20. This is basically what this is right here. Okay, so I personally use myself as I use a 100% propylene glycol base nicotine at 100 milligram. So you're going to put this number at 100 because that's what you use. Now, with Folk Art having a allergy to propylene glycol, he always max VGs out his recipe. Now, if you guys are sensitive to propylene glycol, you can hit that. You can check box that max VG right there if you want to do a max VG recipe. But I really don't have a sensitivity to it unless I get below like if I'm at a 60-40, stuff like that. That's when it starts really bothering me. So I usually don't go below like a 75-25. So you see the input down here. Now, your target nicotine where you actually want it. Now, depending on whether you're using, if you want a 3 milligram, 6 milligram, 9 milligram, whatever you decide that you want to vape. Like if you buy a juice at a brick and mortar and you vape a 9, you could put 9 there. You can taper it down. You can tailor it any way you want on your nicotine strength. Me personally, I vape a 3 milligram. So I'm going to type in that 3. And right here goes back to your ratio on what you want your final product to be. Like I said, I really don't have a sensitivity to propylene glycol. I kind of like the best of both worlds. I like a little bit of cloud, but I also like that flavor. So if the recipe allows it, I will make a 75-25 finished product. You guys can tailor it any way you want. You can do a 90-10, which I doubt that this recipe is going to allow you because it uses 14% flavoring. So I think the max you'll probably be able to do out of this is what, Folkart, with a 14%. So it'll be like a 86-14 or something. You know what I mean? So that'll basically be the end product if you want to do a max VG. But I like a 75-25. Moving on, I am going to do a 60 mil batch today. It's been a while. What's that, Folkart? Go ahead.
David, yeah, there was someone had a question. Jeffrey Dow asked, so in the if you put 4 in that slot where it says strength grams per liter equals 4 milligrams per liter per milliliter. I would let's see. Grams
I'm sorry, Folkart. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So Jeffrey Dow is saying, if you put 4 in the slot of where it says strength grams per liter, that would equal 4 milligrams per milliliter. It says, and then he says it says grams per liter. I guess 4 milligrams per milliliter would be the same thing as 4 grams per liter.
Correct.
So yes.
Per liter. Yes, because see, here's the thing, guys. With us in the United States, we don't use the metric system too much. We're like inches, centimeters, this, that, and the other. We're liters, half liters, 2 liters. When you go buy a pop at the store, you buy a 2 liter, buy a half liter, or you buy a 1 liter. That's the kind of system we use in the United States. But everybody else, everywhere else in the other countries. I know we have Lewis. I'm sure you guys know him from our regular show that we have on Sunday. He's from overseas. They use milliliters, like they use all that metric stuff. So you got to get used to that kind of math, when you're mixing. Now, grams per liter, yes, but if you're going to input 4, it's going to be if you're inputting 3, so it'll be 3 grams per liter. But if you're using the metric system, it would be 4 milliliters. It'll be different. You know what I mean? So it'll be different on that input notation if that's where you're going with it. Oh. So there will be 4, so on that weight. So hopefully that answered your question. That cleared that up a little bit. Yeah. So basically what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to switch cameras. I am going to go off screen right here. I'm going to stop screen sharing. And for you Novus mixers out there, we are going to mix this up for you guys. You're going to have a finished product. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask. Folkart, you got anything before we decide to move on here?
If David would have been here today, toward the end of the show, we were going to ask him to go on all the flavors and pick out some more complex recipes to mix up this week, and on all the flavors. And I was wanting to encourage any of the new mixers that's in the chat to do the same. Go to all the flavors, pick out a couple recipes that you have flavorings for, and just try them out. When you mix them up and you taste the vapor, write down what you taste. Try to pick out the notes. See if you can pick out, say, the strawberry, or pick out the custard that's in it, or pick out the biscuit. Try to write some notes on that particular recipe. That'll help you when you start to develop your own recipes. You'll know what those flavors taste like in a mix. So that's very helpful.
Hey, Folkart, I stopped screen sharing, right?
Yeah.
I can't tell on my computer.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go back up on here. So, guys, basically what we're going to do here, like I said, is a basic mix for you guys out there, for you new mixers. Now, me personally, TFA strawberry doesn't sit right with me. I find it more, and we'll get into this in future videos as far as preferences on how your palate reacts to certain things. I personally, I'm not a big fan of TFA strawberry, so I'm not going to use it in this mix today. I am going to be using a Capella sweet strawberry, like I said, but follow this recipe to the T. You probably will enjoy it. It's just my preference is I really don't enjoy this too much. So,
David, there's another question in the chat. If y'all guys will tag at DIY Mixers Crew, we can see your question a lot easier. Rob Scanlon has a question. How do you add your flavors to your inventory? If you go to all the flavors at the very top, you'll see a link that says flavors. If you click on that, it'll take you to the list of all the flavors that Scott has entered into the database on all the flavors. If you type in a flavor that you have, say, sweet strawberry, and you don't even have to type out the entire word, it'll automatically kind of sort alphabetically what you're typing in, and it'll have listed sweet strawberry Capella. And out to the right of that, there'll be a box. All you have to do is check that box. Bam, it adds it to your inventory. That's how easy it is.
Now, who was that asked that question?
That was Rob Scanlon.
Rob. Okay, Rob, real quick. Good thing to do is, this is the reason why we do a video every week. You can actually go back from last week when we covered all the flavors in detail in last week's episode, and it gives you step-by-step instructions. And you can actually see me when you type in certain flavors like strawberry or vanilla bean ice cream. It'll give you all the vendors and everything like that on there, and it'll show you. I'll show you exactly how to do that. So this is the reason why we're doing these videos like every week. That may seem boring to advanced mixers, but for the new person that's mixing out there, this is the reason why we're doing this. So yeah, it'll give you that information. If you go back and watch last week's episode, it'll give you in detail on how to use all the flavors. But Folkart is right when he talked about that. All you got to do is just go into flavors, go up to the top, and just type that in, and it'll come right up for you. So I'm going to try to do this. I have my camera kind of adjusted a little bit different today. So basically, like I said, you got TFA strawberry. I'm going to sub it out this week for Capella sweet strawberry because I like this strawberry a lot. And the percentage of this that we're going to use in this mix today is 6%. And I am making a 60 mil. Okay, so do you want me to screen share this, Folkart?
Screen share the recipe. I can do that. Flavors. I can
you want to do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, we'll make
right before I do that. Pippa had a question. If a person smokes a 12 milligram cigarette, what sort of nicotine strength should they use when they're starting out?
Well, here's the thing. Well, no, I'll interrupt you on that.
And does it matter if it's a mouth to lung or the DTL? What does that stand for? I don't forgot.
Well, there's mouth to lung and direct lung.
Direct lung. There you go.
Yeah, direct lung. So here's the thing, guys. for you guys that are just starting into mixing. I feel that, well, first of all, I feel that people that are watching this video right now have some kind of, let me see, like some kind of knowledge on like basic coil building or filling their tank and stuff like that. And they kind of know already what type of milligram that they're going to be mixing at home. Now, to answer Pippa's question, now you have to look at it as what she's talking about is, okay, if somebody's, now she said a 12 milligram nicotine, that's actually like a 1.2. That's basically almost like a light cigarette.
Yeah.
Now, if you're smoking a full flavor cigarette, that would be 2.4 grams. Like that would be almost like a 24 milligram or a 2.4 gram. That's actually equivalent to a full flavor cigarette, like a Marlboro filtered or a Camel filtered cigarette. That's like a 24 milligram. And usually a lot of people, when they're mixing those types of juices, those are for a mouth to lung device. I wouldn't recommend sub-ohming like with a wide open sub-ohm like RDA with a 24 milligram. You're just going to get like a crazy nicotine high off of that.
And
wouldn't recommend that.
And a very bad headache.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a sub-ohm tank, I remember when I first started vaping, I graduated to a sub-ohm tank, which I think at the time was a Hercules tank. I was sub-ohming. I think the sub-ohm coil, pre-made coils on that thing was I want to say like a 0.4. I can't remember. It was around that. They sold two different pre-made coils in that for that tank. And I was actually vaping a 24 milligram, and I was sub-ohming, and it was actually straight long hits on it. I mean, it was like vaping shards of glass, but I didn't know any better because, there wasn't that much information out there for me to go by, But to answer to your question, a 1.2 gram would be equivalent to a 12 milligram. You know what I mean? And a 2.4 gram would be equivalent to a 24 milligram. Like I said, a full flavor cigarette is a 24. Light cigarette is probably like I want to say a 1.8 or an 18 milligram. An ultralight cigarette is roughly around the 1.2 range, which would be a 12 milligram. And then it just keeps going down to like a 9.3. And that's the thing about mixing too. You can tailor your mixes to what you want.
Yeah.
Sorry if that was a little bit off topic. Hopefully that answered your question, Pippa.
Yeah. If someone is smoking a light cigarette and they want to use a mouth to lung, I would suggest start out at no higher than 6 milligram. Just to see. If you feel like you need more, you can always go higher. And with a direct to lung, I would start out at 3, maybe 6. But start on the lower end. You can always increase it. You don't want to pump it full of nicotine and then you get you hate it, and then you put it down because you think that you don't like it, just because it's too high in nicotine.
So real quick, I'm screen sharing for you. I will blow this up for you a little bit, guys, in a minute here. But just to reiterate on what we're doing is my nicotine base. My strength of my nicotine is 100 milligram. My VG-PG ratio percentage is 0/100, which means I'm using 100% of propylene glycol as the carrying agent for the nicotine. My nicotine strength, the target what I want is a 3% because that's what I vape. My VG-PG ratio and percentages is at 75-25 because that's what I'm comfortable with and that's what I like. The size that I'm going to make is going to be a 60 mil batch of this. So I got 60 mils here. And then down here is basically how I'm going to start mixing. Now, the first ingredient, like I said, is the TPA strawberry. Okay, like I said, I'm going to sub it with Capella's, sweet strawberry because this is my go-to strawberry. It's one of my favorite strawberries, so I like it. So I'm going to be using that. And in this 60 milliliter bag, 6% is what we added into that. Okay, and if you go back to last week's video, it shows you how to add that percentage. So in a 60 mil, I am going to be using 3.6 grams. I mix by weight, whether you guys mix by syringes. If you guys mix by syringes, it tells you how many milliliters that you're going to need in your syringe. It's pretty much almost the same thing. You're going to need 3.6 mils. I mix by weight. So I'm going to be doing 3.6 grams. As you can see, I'm using the 501B, which I use. And I am going to drop in 3.6 mils. I'm doing this backwards for you guys.
David, we have another question from
go ahead.
Lalani. And the question is, or the statement is, most mixers, including myself in the beginning, are chasing that sweet commercial juice flavor. What sweetener additives would you recommend, and at what percentages?
Okay, now here's the thing. This is a lot of things. Now, real quick, like I said, I'm mixing by weight. Once I add the flavor, if your guys are mixing by weight, okay, with the scale. Okay, I went over a little bit. It doesn't matter. I did a 3.68, but it's not in front of my face, so it's kind of difficult. So once you add your flavor, guys, you know, you're using a strawberry. All you got to do is right down here. This is how easy it is, guys. All you got to do is you hit this tear button right here. Takes it back down to 0. I added the 3.6 grams of the strawberry. Hit the tear button. Takes you back to 0. And then you're off to your next flavor, which is the vanilla bean ice cream. Now, to answer Lee's question, commercial juices, yes, they are loaded with a lot of sweeteners. And I think once you move like forward in your mixing career, you will know that we really don't use that much in DIY for our mixes. Now, some people still like the sweeteners, but if you kind of want that sweetness or that sugary pucker that you get on your lips from that commercial juice that you get all the time, you can use like Capella Super Sweet. Now, Capella Super Sweet is a sucralose. Now, basically, what is it, like a 20% sucralose, I think it is, full cart? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, straight sucralose, like 20%. Now, basically, all you got to do is you could probably add a 0.25 or a 0.25% of Capella Super Sweet in this recipe if you wanted it to sweeten it up like a commercial juice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would recommend, if you're really into commercial juices, purchase Capella Super Sweet. You can use that. There are other flavor vendors out there that do offer other sweeteners like TFA sweetener and stuff like that, but they're not going to be as strong and as potent as Capella's, for instance. So I have the data for that right now, but I'm sorry, I'm kind of like multitasking.
The Capella Super Sweet is kind of more bang for the buck. I mean, I think TPA has a sweetener, but it's like half strength as the Super Sweet, and it's about the same price, I believe. So I generally use the Capella Super Sweet, and depending on what you're making, if you're making something that's a bakery that's not just like a candy or something, if I need some sweetener, I normally use like 0.25%. If you're going more for a candy type vape, maybe you would want to push it to 0.5%, but more than that, it's going to be pretty overwhelming sweetness. But if that's what you like, you know, if you like those really, really sweet commercial juices, maybe pump it up to 0.65, 0.75. It just depends on your taste. I'm sorry, what?
Where would you buy something like that?
I'm sorry, get closer to your mic, David.
No, I said, where would people buy something like that?
The Capella Super Sweet can be found at Bull City Flavors, and we have links in the description, bullcityflavors.com, and if you use our coupon code DMC6, you get 6% off on your total purchase, and I think it's over $75. It's free shipping, so check them out.
Yeah, so if you look here at the scale, guys, getting back to the recipe, the first flavor that I used was the strawberry. Like I said, if you're mixing syringes, it's 3.6 mils in a 60 mil. Grams, same thing. I'm mixing a weight, 3.6 grams. TFA vanilla bean ice cream, it's going to be at 8%. If you're mixing with syringe, it's 4.8. So it's going to be 4.8 grams, which I have on the scale right here. Next up is you hit the tear button. Nicotine base. Okay. Like I said, I'm using 100 milligram make sure you guys wear protection when you're doing nicotine. Okay, so make sure you wear your gloves, and it's going to be calling for 1.86 in a 60 mil. So I'm going to put in 1.86. Now, as you notice that my nicotine doesn't flow out as fast, is because I try to be as precise as I actually can with this. I mean, if you go over like a 100th in your nicotine, it's really not going to make a difference, but you want to try to get this as close as possible, especially when you're working with, higher nicotine concentrations, because you want to try to get this as precise as possible. I went over like a couple hundredth of a mil, but that's not really going to make a difference. Hit the tar button. Okay, next it's going to ask you for your propylene glycol. Okay, if you're mixing with syringes, it's 4.8 milliliters in a syringe. Mixing by weight. Now, here's the difference. See, it's weird. Like you see when we were talking about the grams. Now, this is the reason why when you're mixing by grams is because the weight's different. Okay, it's asking for 4.8 mils in a syringe, but when you're mixing by weight, it's a little bit higher. Okay, that's because the propylene glycol is a different weight. I mean, it might look the same, but it's actually not. So you're putting in the 4.97. This propylene glycol. And like I said, I like to use Essential Depot. I mean, you guys can, pick Bull City Flavors. You guys can pick, any vendors that we decided that our go-tos are. That we mentioned in our second episode. It's up to you guys on who you want to go through. But like I said, I always find buying in bulk Essential Depot, buy the Glycube, they call it. You can mix and match a gallon at a time. I buy 4 gallons at a time. I usually buy 3 gallons of vegetable glycerin and then 1 gallon of propylene glycol. So it's like a 3-to-1 ratio that I actually buy from them guys. And it lasts me a pretty long time. And I wait for those good sales, like the Black Friday sales that just decided to come by. So now to finish up this recipe, it's asking for 75%, okay, of this whole entire mix, 75% of vegetable glycerin. Now, if you are using syringes, it's going to ask for 45 mils. If you're mixing by weight, down here to the left of the screen, it's 56.76. So I'm going to be adding in the vegetable glycerin. Now, I know we've talked and we've answered questions and everything like that in the chat while we were doing this. But in all honesty, guys, if you were just to sit at your house and do this by yourself, it would probably take you 5 minutes. Being a novice mixer, probably take you about 5 minutes to mix this up. That's about it. Me multitasking, doing this on camera, and talking at the same time, you're multitasking, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult, So we're almost there.
So is that your last yep. ingredient there, David? We have a treat for everyone. We have somebody that popped in the Zoom room that is just awesome. dying to talk with us.
Well, let's not oversell it and call it a treat.
Hey,
Concrete, what's going on, buddy? Switch cameras here. Let me get a cap for my juice.
Hey,
what's going on, man?
These new mixers out here.
Oh, not too much. Graham just harassed me into showing up. So, how are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good, man. Good. We usually run this show for about 30 minutes, but now that you're here, we can go over a little bit and we can ask some of the people in the audience. For those new mixers out there in the chat, I don't know if there's that many out there in the chat because it's hard for me to pay attention when I'm doing live and mixing and talking and this and that and the other. So for you new mixers out there that don't know Concrete, he is probably one of the foremost DIY mixers out in the community today. Nice to have you here, bro. What's going on?
Oh, not too much. When you say one of the foremost DIY mixers, I'm just one that writes a lot of flavor notes, really.
You kick ass, bro. You kick ass, man. I follow you a lot. We actually follow you in our group, And that's the thing. Everybody's kind of under this. And this is the good thing about novice mixers out there. For you guys that are just tuning in, or for you guys that just stumbled across DIY mixing at home, you know, you're going to notice this in the DIY community. Everybody is super fucking awesome. Everybody is kind of like under the same umbrella. We all enjoy each other's company. We give credit where credit's due. We don't, like, at least in our group and under our umbrella, we don't talk shit on everybody. Everybody gets along. Any question, it's not stupid, you know. So, you know, but go ahead, guys. I'm gonna shake this up and give it a test. It's been a while since I had mustard milk, but go ahead.
Yeah,
mixing up mustard milk, one of the classics.
That's right. That's right. For those new mixers out there, you know, trying to show them just some simple recipes that they can start with before they tackle their own recipes, you know.
Well, I mean, it's a lot better to go into it actually going for a simple recipe instead of just being a jerk, buying a bunch of flavors and throwing it in a bottle like I did. Much better.
I did the same thing.
But see, that's the thing. When we first started mixing concrete, like, we didn't have, you know, this kind of content. We had Wayne, you know, it just started out. When I first started mixing, that's exactly when he started, like, putting content out. Like, I probably mixed for a couple months before he had his first video, and there really wasn't that much stuff out there for us to go by, you know?
Yeah, I kind of jumped into it on the research side of things. I lurked for a good while before I actually started mixing. I probably, like, debated actually starting a good 20 or 30 times before I actually took the plunge. Just read pretty much everything I could get my hands on, watched a bunch of stuff, and then did exactly the opposite of what people suggest and just bought a bunch of random stuff and started throwing it in bottles and wanted to know why it wasn't turning out right. So I had to actually...
I mean, I don't know if you agree, though. I know you use... do you use... Here's the question for you, though. Do you use ELR a lot, or do you use ATF?
I use ATF for posting my actual recipes, and if I'm looking for recipes, ELR is great for, like, really quick calculations. It's snappier than ATF, and so if I need to just come up with something really quick that I'm not writing down, I'll just pop into ELR and use the actual calculator.
Okay. Yeah, so, you know, that was one of the things that we talked about. I mean, I think as far as, like, it not being as cluttered, I think ATF is by far not as cluttered as ELR as far as, you know, I mean, people have their favorites, you know what I mean? Like, on what they want. Now, here's the thing for you novice mixers out there. Make sure you're not going to be as advanced as getting a magnetic stir or anything like that. Make sure when you do, depending on what type of nicotine that you're using, like I said, I used 100 milligram nicotine, which is pretty much the standard on what a lot of the DIY mixers use once you hit a certain point. I mean, you could probably go over a little bit, like 200 milligram, but I wouldn't suggest doing that. 100 milligram is probably the mainstay on what a lot of the DIY mixers use in the community. Just make sure you give it a good shake. You know, make sure you get that nicotine and those flavors, getting them really to blend together well. You know what I mean? Give it a good shake, and don't be surprised. Like, I'm shaking this right now. If you look at it, it looks kind of like milk. That's fine. You know, don't be scared. Don't think that you guys, oh shit, I mixed this up and it looks like freaking milk. That's fine. All that is the air bubbles and stuff like that. It's just creating it's bending the light, and it's making it look like it's milk. But once those bubbles settle down in that mix, it will go back to like a clear, you know, or like a yellowish tin or whatever, you know, depending on where you get your nicotine from. And like I said, we suggest Liquid Barn nicotine. They have some of the purest, freshest nicotine. If you're using 100 milligram, it's not going to be like an off color. So just using these two flavors, it shouldn't be it should be pretty much clear. Now, here's the thing though, too. Once it sits on your shelf for a couple days, we'll get into this in further episodes about steeping and stuff like that. It will change color on you. Nothing to be alarmed. You know, that's just the nicotine oxidizing a little bit, some of the flavors melding together, and it will start to change color on you. Now, real quick, before I juice this up and give it a whiff, it's been a long time since I had a mustard milk. So what were some of the first recipes that you decided to mix concrete?
I think the first recipe I ever tried was 8% Capella's vanilla whipped cream and 4% Flavor Art raspberry.
Wow.
Which is kind of the same idea as mustard milk. You've got a cream and a pretty simple fruit. And it wasn't great by any stretch of imagination, but it was just good enough to keep me interested and kind of branch out from there. After that first initial order, I think I put in like a $50 order to start off with. And then I found out really quick I was going to need a whole lot more VG. And I made the mistake of just buying stuff that looked interesting. So I ended up vaping a lot of stuff that had Horror Hound in it for a couple months before I really figured out what I wanted to do.
Oh, Jesus.
Who doesn't like Horror Hound, right?
I'm telling you what, though, guys, for you novice mixers out there, I just mixed this up. It's been a very long time off a shake and vape. Like I said, I opted to use Capella Sweet Strawberry. TFA doesn't sit well with me. I find TFA strawberry to be more of a candied strawberry, but which is fine if you guys like that in a mix. It would probably be good for you new guys because that more candied strawberry, you'll get that more sweet. Going back to Lee's question that she had in the chat, you can probably add a little bit of super sweet in there, Capella Super Sweet. Maybe at like a 0.25%. You might even be able to go a little bit lower, maybe at like a 0.1. Just to give it that more inherent sweetness to that vape to kind of remind you of that commercial juice that you usually buy all the time. Yeah. But it's for a 2-flavor recipe, it's fucking phenomenal. I mean, you can't beat it. And this 60 mil probably cost us about maybe about $1, maybe $1.50 for a 60 mil.
Yep.
and you're spending probably $20 on a 30 mil. You're probably spending $45 on a 60 mil, maybe $40 at a brick and mortar. You know what I mean?
On some medium juices, yeah.
Yep. And you know what? You're saving 90%. You're cutting 90% of the cost.
Yeah.
Yep. So so before we get out of here, Concrete, now that we got you here, man, anything you wanted to add to some of these novice mixers out there in the community that are tuned in?
Don't be afraid to screw up. I mean, really, I can't speak too much about, the way you should get into mixing, the way people are doing it now, finding recipes going in that way, much better way than I did it. But the thing you have to remember is just don't be afraid to screw up. We're seeing you waste like 70, 80 cents on a 30 milliliter bottle that doesn't quite come out, in terms of buying a juice that you don't like, that's a lot of room for screwing up.
Yeah, dude. So what do you think some of the biggest challenges for new mixers are, for some of those mixers out there? What do you think some of the biggest challenges that they face? I mean, I think like me personally, as a mixer, it was more difficult for me because there wasn't that much information out there. But what do you think some of the biggest challenges that new mixers face out there that are just starting out?
There's a lot of signal to noise in terms of information now, which I guess is a little bit of the opposite issue. You just want to make sure that you find like a good source, like something like this, just a good source to start off with. You want to make sure that you've done just a little bit of research, enough to keep yourself, relatively safe. You just have to figure out your information source, and then you just have to admit that you're going to go for mixing recipes. And if you want to go ahead and start developing your own stuff, there's a learning curve, and the best way to do it is just to power through it. You can take experience and you can take information from other people once you want to make that jump from, hey, this is just a bottle of vapable liquid to this is something I'm proud of. But the big hurdle for that is always just going to be time and practice more than anything else. It's like anything else in life. You're not going to be, a master mixer right off the jump, but don't be afraid to screw up, and don't be afraid to share with people, and don't be afraid to learn from other people too.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was plenty of times where when I first started mixing, I flushed a lot of stuff down a freaking toilet, man. But you know what? I honestly, even though I flushed that stuff down the toilet, I still saved money. You know what I mean? I still saved the money. It's all about trial and error. Like Concrete said, guys, just get out there, try some, tried and true recipes out there that are just simple, like 2 to 4 flavors that could be your all day vapes, and then start experimenting, going forward and experiment with flavors and, trying to create something that you like. Like I said, when I first started mixing, I used, I think it wasn't Fuji Apple. I mentioned Fuji Apple, but it was the Flavor Apprentice, TFA. TFA Apple and Cinnamon Danish Swirl. Same scenario. 8%, 6%. I used. No, it was a 6.4. It was a 6% Cinnamon Danish Swirl, I think, and a 4% Apple. I'd have to look up the recipe, but that was my first recipe, and it reminded me of kind of like an apple Danish, like a cinnamon apple Danish. And I vaped on that for the first month when I first started mixing. And I said, and when I first created it, it's kind of like you get that sense of like, oh, this is like good. This is something that I can do. And it takes a hold of you, and this is why we are where we're at today, because we love mixing. We have a passion for it. We enjoy it. We enjoy trying to get new mixers into the community, because, new mixers is what makes our community strong. You know what I mean? And it's what makes us keeps us involved, and it's a passion for us, and we love it. Other than that, guys, that's all I got for today. If you guys want to add anything, if you got any questions for Concrete or Folk Art or me, feel free to ask them in the chat. I know we went over a little bit today. That's because we had a little bit of technical difficulties. But going forward, make sure you check us out on Facebook. If you enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell up in the right-hand corner and subscribe to the channel. Also, check out our Facebook. We also have a 24-hour Zoom room that you new mixers don't feel intimidated by us as far as being mixers. If you guys have any questions, we have a 24-hour Zoom room. Somebody's in there once in a while. Join the Discord. Say, hey, I'm in a Zoom room. Can you come out and join us and answer some questions one-on-one? We have no problem with that. We enjoy that type of conversation. Come in a Zoom room. Come in a Facebook group. No question's a stupid question. If you feel stupid, don't feel stupid. Because we were there at that point in time when we were mixers, and we didn't have that luxury of reaching out to advanced mixers in the community and saying, hey, what percentage of nicotine should I use in this? It might sound stupid to you, or you might feel stupid like asking it, but you know what? It's not a stupid question. It's all about safety, about learning it to do it the right way. And this is what we're here for, guys. So feel free to ask the questions. Real quick, Folk Art, you got anything before we jet out?
I was just going to say, everyone get on all the flavors or ELR, pick out some recipes and mix a couple up this week, and write down some notes on those recipes and try to pick out some of those flavors that you put in there. That way, when you put it in something else, you can recognize that flavor.
Yeah, real quick, Concrete, before we jet out of here, man. Copel and all them guys, what time's your show on? So some of those guys in the community can check you out.
We are on 3:00 Eastern, noon Pacific on Sundays for the Mixed Life show. You have myself, Adam, Copel, Jennifer Jarvis shows up. It's a good time. We also have the Stopgap radio show, which Graham would hurt me if I didn't plug. That goes on Thursday nights after In the Mix, and be on the lookout for a very spooky and mysterious new project coming in the new year with myself, Shindo, and Graham. So we'll have more information about that later.
Ooh.
It's super spooky.
Awesome. All right, guys. Hey, you take care. Make sure you check out www.liquidbarn.com and use code MixersCrew. Get 15% off your total order, and you get free shipping over $50. Like I said, lightning fast shipping from Bull City Flavors. Use code DMC6 and get 6% off your total order. You get free shipping over $75. Other than that, guys, mix up some good recipes, man. Report back. Like I said, check us out on Facebook, Discord, and the Zoom room. I'll see you guys. I'll see you next week.
See you guys. Thanks for coming, Concrete.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, man.
Chuki beat. Chuki beat. Chuki beat. Chuki beat.